MBA Show, the business podcast that gets real, because after all, it is your business, with our daily 10-minute business lessons for the real world. I'm your host, your coach, your teacher, Omar Zenhom. I'm also the co-founder of the $100 MBA, a complete business training and community online. Should you publish a book traditionally, or should you self-publish on your own? Which one is best? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What's the best choice for you, given the stage you're in your business right now? We're going to get into it. A lot of people talk about this. Should I get a book deal? Should I self-publish myself? We're going to get into the nitty-gritty in today's episode, so let's get down to business. Today's episode of the $100 MBA Show is sponsored by InfoFree.com. If you're struggling to find new customers because your contact lists are outdated and don't have the sales leads that are right for your business, then you need to check out InfoFree.com. They make it super easy for you to have access to a database of 14 million businesses and over 220 million consumers. It gives you the power to target specific leads that are right for your business. And with their free mobile app, it gives you the ability to access all your sales leads and research any business before you call. Just go to infofree.com/MBA and get a 30-day risk-free trial of their services. That's infofree.com/MBA. Let me begin by defining what I mean by traditional book publishing and self-publishing. Let's start with traditional. So traditionally, when you wanted to publish a book, you would approach a publishing house. There are all kinds of publishing houses, large, small, but you usually see the publisher on the back of the book. And what you do is that you would send a manuscript. And this could be maybe the first chapter or two of the book, and maybe even an outline of what the whole book would be about. And you would send this manuscript in hopes that you would get a deal with this publisher. Now, every publisher will cut a different deal. This is a negotiation. This is business. So they may offer you an advance. An advance is money they give you in advance, but that money comes from the sales. So for example, if they give you $50,000 in advance, they give you that money up front, and then when the book goes on sale, whatever profit or whatever portion of the profit that you get from the book sales would be accounted for, and you would have to pay back that $50,000. So once you pass that $50,000 in your amount of revenue for the book sales, that's when you would start making that royalty fee of the actual book. Again, this is all a negotiation. Your advance could be $20,000, it could be $200,000. And every publishing house has a different timing for that. So maybe the advance would be immediately, and then they give you another advance when the book is finished. Sometimes they split it 50-50. But the point is that you're cutting a deal with a publishing house. Now, they're obviously going to take a large chunk of the sales of the actual book once it gets on the shelves of bookstores or gets sold on Amazon or wherever. So you're obviously not going to make as much money per sale versus if you went a self-publishing route. Now, you might get more sales because the publisher may market it very heavily, but that's all part of the deal. Who's in charge of marketing? Are you going to go on a book tour? And more these days, publishers are relying on you as the author to market the book and not them. But they'll distribute the book, they'll print it, and they'll put it into bookstores. Now, that's what I mean by traditional publishing. I'll go into the advantages and disadvantages in a moment. Now, self-publishing is you do it all on your own. You write the book on your own, you publish it on your own. You can even offer a paperback version of it, so it's not just an ebook on your website. It could be a paperback version as well, and you can create a Kindle version of it or an iBooks author version of it. But you can also obviously print a physical paperback of it. And there's actually publishing houses like that where you don't have to publish, 1,000 books or 50,000 books at a time. You can have them printed as they get sold. Now, that's a bit more costly than doing a bulk printing, but it gives you that option. Now, with self-publishing, everything that you earn is yours. You're absorbing the costs, but you're also taking in all the revenue. You're also doing all the work. Remember, the traditional publishing house is publishing the book, they're printing the book, they're taking care of the sales, all that stuff. With traditional, you just focus on the content, you actually create the book, the actual words on the page, and send it to them. So let's talk about advantages and disadvantages. It may seem like, wow, why would I go with the traditional route? I can just self-publish and keep all the money. So let's talk about the advantages of traditional publishing and then talk about the disadvantages. If you go down the traditional publishing route, it does allow you to have a platform that you normally wouldn't have. So if you are a new author, if you're a new business, a new brand, and you really don't have much of an audience, you don't have a large audience, you don't have a large following, then getting a book traditionally published may be a good idea to get that exposure. Because remember, the publisher will distribute the book. They'll get the book into bookstores. They'll make sure that it's being sold because it's in their best interest to get it sold. Now, obviously, they're taking a heavy cut for it. But the point is that a lot of people publish a traditional book with the whole intention of having a platform. They just want a book so they can say they're an author, and hopefully they can get exposure and people can learn more about them, and it could be their launching pad into other ventures. A lot of great entrepreneurs have become famous, have become popular, have really taken their business to the next level because of a best-selling book. One of them is Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek, the book that we covered in yesterday's Must Read. I can't remember the exact number, but I remember hearing Tim Ferriss being rejected by tons of publishers. I think maybe over 10 or 20. I can't remember the exact number, but he was rejected so many times. But when he did get accepted, the book really blew up and it became a bestseller. And it became his platform for more books as well as products and services and his whole brand. So that is one of the biggest advantages of a traditional book deal. Now, not all publishers are equal. So some publishers will give you a bigger platform and some will do less of a platform. So you got to make sure you negotiate that in your actual deal. If the whole reason why you're doing a traditionally published book is to have a platform, then make sure those elements are included in your deal. Maybe your advance doesn't have to be that large, or you have no advance and you just increase your percentage of sales for each sale of the book. Now, that's one of the biggest advantages of getting a book traditionally published. Also, you could just focus on writing the book, and after you write the book, you could start, marketing the book and things like that. Now, you're going to have some sort of marketing responsibilities. It's not just give it to the publisher, they'll take care of it. Those days are kind of over these days. But the point is that you can focus on certain tasks and they can focus on their tasks. All right, what about the disadvantages? Now, one of the biggest disadvantages of traditional publishing is you're not going to make as much money per sale, and you have very little control of how they sell it. You also have to be careful. If you're going to get a book traditionally published, make sure you have a lawyer, because there are certain rights that the book publisher may want, like rights to if this book becomes a part of a movie or television or whatever. You never know. Your story, your book may have a great impact on others, and you might be approached that. So make sure you have all the different kinds of rights that entail you to make more money off your actual material, off the actual content of your book. You also have a limited say to when this book actually gets out in the world. You may want to line this up at a certain time. You're not as flexible as if you were working by yourself. If you were doing it yourself, you can make all these choices yourself. When it comes out, how it comes out, what it's priced for, all that stuff. The publisher is in control when it comes to that. Those are the highlights. So what about self-publishing? Now, obviously, the advantages of self-publishing is that you can pocket all the revenue because you're doing it yourself. It also means you can price it at what you want to price it for. So if you want to sell your book for $30 and not $15, you can do so. And you can justify that pricing on your own sales page. You can bundle your books with different things, like you can bundle your book with a video course or coaching or whatever other services you want to add to the book. So basically, you have full control on how you want to sell this book. Now, obviously, you don't have that whole advance thing where you get money from nowhere, but you could do pre-sales. You could pre-sell the book so you can kind of have an advance so you can fund your actual work, fund your actual writing of the book. Essentially, it's the same thing because an advance is money that is taken from future sales. Now, the disadvantage of self-publishing is that it's going to take a lot of your time. It's going to take a lot of work, and you have to do everything. The responsibility is all on your shoulders. Now, if you don't worry about that, that doesn't bother you, then maybe self-publishing is for you. The other thing is that self-publishing is not going to build a platform for you. Now, a lot of people that already have a platform or have published books traditionally in the past are going to the self-publishing route. Seth Godin is one of them. I know Gary Vaynerchuk has mentioned that his next book is going to be self-published because he wants more control. So if you have an existing audience, self-publishing is something you may want to consider because the advantages of traditional book publishing doesn't seem that great when you already have a platform, when you already have a following. So you may be a popular person on YouTube. So you already have a following to sell to. You could say, hey, I am publishing a book. If you have 1 million subscribers on your channel, you have plenty of people to promote to. The point is you have already built your platform. Therefore, you can have the advantage of publishing your own books and not having to give up control to a publisher. For most people, you don't have the audience. Because I remember I had a small audience. I sold books that I wrote myself. I self-published. And sales were okay, but they were a measure of how much reach I had. So keep that in mind. I want to take a moment to say that there is no right or wrong answer. You have to choose what's best for you. There are great advantages to traditionally publishing a book, as well as self-publishing. And I don't prefer one over the other. You have to choose what's best for you at this stage in your business. I got more on this topic, but before that, I got to give love to today's sponsor, High Five. How many times have you had a meeting where you wasted the first 15 minutes? It's usually because somebody's having trouble joining the call, you can't share your screen, or you can't be heard, or they don't have the right PIN code. Nothing but problems. Well, the people at High Five want to give you back your first 15 minutes of every meeting. And that's why they built this easy-to-use video and web conferencing that you'll actually love. Traditional video providers are ridiculously complicated and insanely expensive. And most web-only providers completely ignore the conference room experience. You get charged expensive monthly service fees, even if you don't use the service. You got long PIN codes to remember, cables everywhere. It's a lot of time wasted. Luckily, High Five is incredibly easy to set up and to use. You can enjoy productive HD video meetings with multiple people. There's no remote control to lose or to struggle with. With a simple click on your computer or swipe on your phone, you move video calls from your personal device to the conference room TV. And best of all, High Five is only 1/20th of the cost of traditional video providers. Outfit a conference room for only $799, and that's a one-time fee. There's no maintenance fees or monthly overhead. It's yours to enjoy. What team doesn't want to high-five each other at work? Take back your first 15 minutes of every meeting and get started. Go to highfive.com/MBA. That's highfive.com/MBA to request your free trial and start meeting face-to-face with High Five. Guys, I want to wrap up with some important advice when it comes to publishing a book. Regardless if you use traditional or self-publishing, understand that writing a book takes time. It's not only writing, but there's outlining, there's brainstorming the whole ideas, it's segmenting everything into the right chapters, it's the editing process. It's a long process, and you need to make sure you dedicate enough time. This is why when you traditionally publish, so they give you an advance or they work out in advance because they know that you have to pay the bills. You have to take time away from your business so you can write. So make sure you allot the right amount of time, enough time to write an epic book. And if you do write a great book, a best-selling book, it can really have a lot of impact on your business. A lot of people write best-selling books because it gets them more speaking gigs. If you have a New York Times or a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and you're a decent public speaker, you can take home $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 a speaking gig. So there are other incentives to writing a great book, but make sure it's great. Whether you traditionally publish or self-publish, make sure you dedicate yourself to a great piece of work. All right, guys, that wraps up today's lesson. Thank you guys so much for listening to the $100 MBA Show every single day. We really appreciate you guys. If anybody has a question, don't forget, on the weekends, we have Q&A weekends. Email us at contact@100mba.net if you have a question. Ask me a question on Twitter at BizRepublic, B-I-Z Republic, and we'll make sure we answer it on Q&A weekends. Guys, I want to leave you with this. These decisions in business, whether I traditionally publish or I self-publish, they're big decisions. But if you make a decision and realize, if I had to do it all over again, I would make a different decision, don't worry about it. You can do it all over again. You can have another chance at it in the future. Learn from it. It's okay. Rarely do people make the right decision every single time. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Make a decision, follow through, learn from the experience, make it happen. All right, guys, I'll check you in tomorrow's episode. I'll see you then. Take care.